Okay, I got this song that I've been working on, Razor, and I'm going to mix it now. So I'm going to use all the techniques that we learned in the previous loop-based song and the new ones regarding buses and sends and all that stuff for this. And I may make some changes to the arrangement or composition in some way as I go. There's no way to know. Sometimes in the mixing process that just happens. You know, you just are trying to do something and you feel like it's just not sounding right, or a new idea comes to you and you want to change it. There's nothing saying that you can't change things midway through. So I'm just going to get started and see what happens as we go. The first thing I'm going to do is focus on the most important part of the song, which is the chorus in this case. So I'll put a loop around my chorus here, and I'm going to start just by volume balancing and panning like I did before in the previous, like I mentioned doing before in the previous loop-based song. That's super important. If you can just get your volume right, like your levels balanced and the panning nice, then you're already like a huge percentage of the way there to making the song sound great. And then everything else is just kind of icing on the cake. So I'm going to push play. I'm going to listen at a pretty quiet volume, and I'm going to start balancing things relative to one another like that. So a pretty obvious thing to do here is I've got two things playing the lead melody, which is the piano and the lead synth. So I should just bus them together to make a single control for them. So I'm just going to select both and right click and say add bus for selected channels. I'll call this, let's call it, I need to change the name of that other thing. I'm going to call this chorus lead, and then this is just going to be called lead. Okay, so I've got my lead, piano, and chorus lead. So now if I adjust this, the piano and the lead get adjusted together. So I like how they sound like that. Let's get back to the full mix. The next thing I'm going to bus together are the two Rhodes electric pianos I have. That makes sense. I'd like an individual fader to control them both. So I select both of them, right click, add bus for selected channels, and I'll just call this Rhodes. Sometimes I use all caps to denote a bus. I didn't in this case because I had two words put together, chorus and lead, so it looks kind of weird as one chunk, but here, just leave this as Rhodes. And let's color these pink with the rest, like that. So now I can, with one fader, move the Rhodes up and down. So I'm pretty happy with the way that this mix is sounding right now in the chorus. I'm a little bit skeptical about if the Rhodes are too loud or not. However, I haven't put any reverb on it yet, and reverb does, depending on how you put it on, tend to sync things backwards in the mix a little bit. So if something sounds too up front, like it's poking out a little bit, it might be that it needs some reverb to sync it back. So I'm going to wait till I have the reverb on it before I go about turning it down any further. I did turn it down 2 dB from where it was earlier, and everything else feels pretty balanced. I brought the bass up quite a bit, 3.2 dB, because it just wasn't coming through enough. And now I'm just going to go to the other parts of the song, the verse and then the bridge, balance the volume in those parts, and then I'm going to come back and start doing the reverb and all that. So here again in the verse, I have a similar situation. There's a point where the flute and the clarinet play together. So I may as well bus them together like this. And we'll just call this verse lead. And that way, once I get them balanced relative to one another, sounding good in comparison to each other, if I ever need to turn them up or down, I can just use the bus, and then it will work as kind of like a master volume for both of those things. One thing I'm interested in doing is the first time through my verse, I have just the clarinet, and then the second time is the clarinet and the flute. And what I would like to do is when they come in together, I want to pan them a little bit so that maybe the clarinet is here and the flute's here, so they're not both straight center. and get a little more width out of the lead sound. So I'm going to go to my automation, and then I've already included some panning automation from earlier that I did in my arrangement part over here, but I am going to do a little bit of it right now in this second half of the verse. So I'm just going to zoom in, and I will pan the clarinet a little bit left, like maybe just halfway, let's say 50, and then I'll do the same for the flute, going 50 to the right. And now let's hear that. It's all right. It's not really the effect I wanted because they're not playing perfectly in unison to each other just due to the samples that I used. They're not, I don't know, I would say I'm going to bring it in a little bit, maybe 25 instead of 50, and then I'll just leave it like that for now. And then sometimes the best thing is just leave it, take some time away, come back and focus on it again later. So I got that at 29, and let's put this down at 29 as well. Okay, so I'm going to leave those as they are right now and move on. A question I'm having right now is, do I have a good balance between the lead sounds in my verse and my chorus? So I'm just going to skip back and forth between the two sections and see how they feel. First, I will do it with all the instruments in, then maybe I'll do it soloed as well. So here's the verse. Feels pretty good. Yeah, that's good for me right now. I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay, so I'm thinking drums now. I'm gonna create some buses for the drums. What I'll do is create a bus for just the shakers. I'm gonna name them first of all. Shaker left and shaker right. If you don't know, the way I'm kind of moving between these like this is with the tab key and shift tab to move back. So tab moves me over and shift tab moves me back to the left. Same thing goes for up here. If I double click and push tab, I'll move down, and shift tab to move up for naming things. So we got shaker left, shaker right, just call these claps. And I'm gonna make a bus for the shakers and just call this shakers. Oops. And I'm gonna make a bus for all the drums all together. So I'm gonna get the two drums and the crashes, and actually I'll just add in the shaker bus. Oop, too many there. Shaker bus and the claps. And all of this is going to go to the bus, and we're gonna call this drum bus. So now what's happening is the drum beats are going to the drum bus, the crashes are going to the drum bus, the shakers are going to the shaker bus, and then that shaker bus is going to the drum bus, and then the claps themselves are going to the drum bus as well. So now with one fader, I can control the whole drum track and percussion track with all the elements together. I'm listening to my bridge, and we have this chord sound, this one. Little blips at the start, but for me the blips are too much. It's a little bit too much of a blip for the vibe I'm going for. So what I'm gonna do is I went into my synth here. Now this is a little bit more advanced, but you can check out what I'm doing. And what happens inside the synth is you can cause different elements like the LFOs or the envelopes or anything else to control things inside the synth. So right now I'm using this envelope number 2, or this, I'm not using it, it's being used to control the cutoff of the synth. And that's what's causing the little blip to happen. It's the cutoff starts high and it instantly blips down. Like if you look at the slope here, it starts at the top and instantly almost blips down to the bottom. So it goes bip, bip, and then holds at that low cutoff value. So what I want is to not start so high. I want start a little bit lower on the cutoff, and it's here in mod A. We're going to learn all about this, but we can just check it out now. It says envelope 2 is controlling filter cutoff. And how much is it controlling it? This much. This little blue meter here. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit until it's sounding like I want. So let me pull it down just a little bit and check it out. It's almost already good like that. Right, so now it's a much more chill, soft attack to it. And if I put it all the way up, like this, see what happens? I'm gonna bring it back down to maybe here. That's pretty good, and I might even make it a little longer. Meaning that the blips aren't so quick, they're more boom instead of bip, bip. Yeah, it's a little bit more like that is good. This is sounding pretty good. It's gonna be hard for me to tell what more to do until I put some reverb on things and it starts to get smoothed out. So I'm just gonna leave it for now. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it for now, and then I will come back to it once I have some reverb put on the chorus. And something I'm noticing here is my clarinets and flutes have that little panning that I did earlier, and they have big panning at the end. But look at this. The panning is coming down to here, 29, and then it's very gradually moving back towards center right here. See how there's a little slope here? That's because I need to put another little node right in alignment with this first one at 29. Now this is totally straight. This doesn't matter if it's sloping up because there's no notes playing here. But here I want it to maintain where it was, and same thing with this. This needs to be at 29. Now this is totally straight, and then it starts sloping back here. In fact, I don't even need these points. It can just slope all the way to the new value over here, but this should remain constant. Okay, so that's basically all the parts of my song. Now I'm going to go back to the chorus, and I'm going to start doing reverb and some cool stuff like that. The important part of the chorus here is the lead, of course. So I have two lead elements, this synth, which sounds like it already has a reverb on it, and it does, and a delay on it, which it does inside of my tie. And I actually don't mind how those sound as it is right now. So I might just leave that, but my piano is super dry, which is no good. So I'm gonna set up a send for an effects channel. And this send is gonna have a room reverb on it, and we're gonna start designing our reverb patch for the piano. So I need to turn this up a bit. So I need a much larger one than that. I'm gonna use some kind of preset here. This is actually kind of cool, but it has too much pre-delay, which is this knob right here. Now, if you listen, every time the sound hits, it almost sounds like there's a little echo, a little delay that comes after it. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. That's because of this pre-delay. The pre-delay is how long does it take until the reverb starts? Because in really big places, there's a pre-delay as the sound waves have to propagate out to the walls, then they reflect and come back to you. So the time between when you hear the first sound and then by the time the reverb comes back, that's called the pre-delay. And 79 is pretty huge, so I'm gonna bring this back down to maybe like 20 something. It's pretty cool. It's a big reverb, but it sounds pretty nice. I like it's kind of almost dreamy, ethereal. Now, of course, notice that I have the mix knob at 100% because it's on an effects channel. I do not want this to be any lower than 100, so I'm going to keep that there. And now I'm going to choose how much of the reverb I want through my send amount here. Actually, let's name this first. I'll call this hall verb because it's like a big hall. And when people say hall like that, they don't mean like a hall like you're walking in a hall in your house. They mean like a concert hall. That's what they call a big room made to play music in, as a hall. So yes, let's put the mix back in, and then we're going to use this amount to tell how much we want of the reverb. So to do that, we'll unsolo everything, and then I'm going to mute my lead synth, and I'm just going to hear my piano. Remember the rules about reverb. Unless you make a conscious decision that you want it to be like super loud and obvious, huge reverb, it should be to the point where the average listener will not even notice that it's there. Yet when you take it away, something feels like it's missing. So I'm kind of looking for that sweet spot right now. It's not bad like that. It might be a little bit loud, but I'm going to keep it for now and just see how it meshes with this one. What I might even do is remove the reverb from the lead and send it to the same reverb that this is using, so they sound like they're kind of in the same place. I'm just going to copy this over like that. Quite like that right now, so I'm going to leave this as is. Now here I have the hall verb is over here next to everything. I like to keep my send effects over at one side of the console, just so it's easy for me to find them all, because I'm going to end up with quite a few of them probably at some point. Whoops, it went to a whole other section of my computer there. So here we go. I've got all my tracks and their buses and everything, and then over here I've got the hall verb, the reverb on its own. And I'll give it some kind of distinctive color, maybe like this. And then I'll keep all of my send effects that color so that I can see them easily when I need to look over there. It's already sounding much nicer. The next thing that needs reverb is the Rhodes. So I'm just going to solo this for a minute and then add a reverb to this. Now, in this case, the Rhodes are acting almost as if they're one keyboard, right? I have two of them panned left and right, but they're basically pretending to be one. They want to sound like one big keyboard. Whereas here, it's kind of like two different instruments playing the same melody. So I had a send on the piano with a certain amount and a send on the synth with a certain amount. Here, I'm going to put the send on the Rhodes itself, on the bus for the Rhodes. So I don't need to put two individual sends. I just put the send on the bus, and then both of them are being merged into that bus, and then that merged audio signal gets sent to the reverb, so they both get it. And I'm not going to use the same reverb that I used for the lead, because the lead probably should be kind of distinctive and have its own sound. I'm going to get a more subtle reverb for these Rhodes. So I'm going to send add effects channel, and then see what I can get here. So I'll insert another room reverb and start experimenting. That's not even too bad like that. Kind of like a studio sound. Oh, that medium studio. I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to unsolo it because we can't really get an idea of it while it's soloed. We can hear what it sounds like, but we need to hear it in the mix. Now it's quite difficult to hear because it's sunken back, right, compared to everything else. I'm just going to mute the chorus lead for a minute. And it's reverb too, I need to mute that. I'm just going to toggle this on and off and hear the difference. This is obviously totally dry and sounds kind of strange. If you're not used to listening to reverbs, it can be difficult to hear. It's a very subtle thing that you have to kind of tune your ears to. I actually quite like how it's sounding. I'm gonna leave it like that. So I'm going to call this room verb. So the one's a big hall. This sounds more like a studio or like a smaller room. So that makes sense. I'm going to put it down here next to my hall verb, and I'm going to color it that pink color as well. So now let's hear everything together. So the only other elements I have in this chorus section are the bass, which, as I mentioned before, shouldn't really have reverb on it. However, I may put a tiny bit of the room reverb to make it sound like it's more in a real space, because a synth bass is like literally as dry as it possibly gets. It wasn't recorded in a room with a microphone. It's being produced by the synthesizer, so it's completely dry. And that can sound kind of weird sometimes when you put it with acoustic instruments. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of this room verb on there and see what that sounds like. Much less than that. Just a tiny bit like that. That's fine for me. The only other element I have now is this arpeggio. And it has its own reverb on it, I believe, already inside here, yeah. And I think it sounds fine like that. Now at the end of the song, I have the chorus again, but a big version of it where there's two, there's all the instruments playing. There's the flute and the clarinet playing and all the regular chorus instruments and the shakers and everything. So here I'm going to look at what I can do to make sure everything blends together. I could use the same reverb for the clarinet and the flute that I did on the leads. I might try that. I might even listen to it in the verse just to see how that sounds. So if where am I here? Here's my verse 2, and let's loop that actually. And then we'll use the verse lead bus, so not specifically the clarinet or the flute, but the one that has both of them. And let's put that to the hall verb and see what that sounds like. Oh, they both have reverb on them already, so I need to take that off. Turn this reverb off, and turn this reverb off. So I do like it. I like that at the end of this note here, that the reverb lasts for that entire space. Let's listen to that. So you see there's that emptiness there, and it covers up that whole emptiness. Yeah, I think I might leave it like that for now and see how we do. Let's go from the chorus into the verse. I like it. I may want to put a different reverb on there. I don't know. I'm going to leave it for now. And I might want a slight delay on the clarinet. I'm going to solo that and try that out. Just the built-in delay that's inside of Presence. That's fine for me right now. Yeah, I am going to try a different reverb. So I'm going to go for add effects channel. And here I've got a new effects channel and call this Reverb 2. Let's get a room reverb on there and start trying something out. This might be better. Quite like it actually. Let's hear it with the mix though, because you never know. So take solo off and let's check it out. So it's quite dry compared to the chorus. I want to hear how that difference sounds. Feels closer, makes the section feel a little bit different in the chorus being so huge feeling with big reverb, and this is a little bit smaller reverb, feels a little bit tighter and kind of a different space, which is nice. Okay, back to the verse. Now I'm going to work on some of the other instruments here. I'm putting some room reverb here on the bells, so here's it without. And with. I might even put quite a bit on it, I'm not sure yet. Let's take off the solo. Now, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep it kind of subtle. I'm also going to put on the Reverb 2. I'm going to pan that they have kind of like a drifting quality over to one side. Here's it with no sends. Totally dry. And sends on. Next thing here is the shakers, and a lot of times drums will have their own room that they're in, the whole drum kind of vibe. And the drum loop already has a room. So that's the wrong one, this one. You can hear it's kind of already like in a space. I'm gonna try to get the shakers to kind of feel like that. So I'm gonna add one more reverb here, one more effects channel, and this one, where did it go? FX1 got put over here for some reason. Guess that was the channel I was clicked on. I'm going to put on here another room reverb, but this time it's going to be a drum room of some sort. So they have drum booth. Could try that. It's probably really small though. We don't really have a large studio, but we could maybe make one. Let's start with a medium studio. So there's with the studio on it and without. Name this drum verb and turn it on and off. I put the claps in there too. Kind of like that. Let's hear that in the mix. Maybe on the claps I'll even put one of the bigger reverbs, like the hall verb too. Maybe just a little bit. It's kind of in the background. So I'm interested now is the transition between the chorus and the bridge. What I could do here is cut off the drums on this last snare hit, that one, a little tiny fade there, and then put a reverb, maybe the biggest one we have, the hall verb, on that and automate it so that it comes up just for that hit like this, and then we'll automate it to maybe like right here. I don't know how loud that's going to be. Let's just try it out. It's pretty good like that. Could be bigger though. So I may need a specialty reverb just for that. Or I could automate the size of that reverb. However, I think it's easier for me to just do a specialty reverb. I'm going to move my first drum verb over here and color this the same. And then I'm pretty much going to duplicate this track. Actually, let's do this. Remove this. Say add effects channel. And then where did you get added this time? At the end? Yeah. And we'll call this, come on, big verb. We'll take this room reverb from the hall here, and then I'm going to put the automation on. So edit send level. Now what is this thing here? It's gone, isn't it? It's not even happening anymore, this guy. So we can remove this because this is an automation that's not happening. It's not even possible anymore, so we'll just remove that, close it. And so this is going to come up right here. And now I can experiment with my big verb, make it bigger. Kind of like that, sounds pretty good. I'm just playing with some parameters here, trying to get the best sound I can. I like to go to the extreme, all the way this way, all the way that way, and hear what it does. Totally different sound like that, hey? Versus this. Somewhere in the middle is better. Like that, and then I may turn the big verb down a little bit. That much. That's probably pretty good. I'm going to hear it from a little bit earlier. And that smooths that transition out a little bit. And then I could automate the bass to fade its volume up over time. During this build-up. So I have the bass set at a good volume already. So what I'm going to do is put a point right here to lock it, put a point right here to lock it, and now I'm free to do stuff in the middle here. So I'm going to bring it down quite a bit, maybe like here, and see what this sounds like first of all. Too quiet to even hear it at first, so let's bring it maybe up to like there. That's pretty good. Maybe bring it up even louder than it would normally be, just for some added effect. Maybe not 7 decibels louder, but how about 5? Sounds pretty good like that. My only concern about this part right now is that by the time the chords build up at the end, they get a little bit too loud compared to the chorus, and the chorus feels kind of weak. So let's hear that. Not too bad. I actually quite like it like that. One thing I notice here is that the Rhodes sound kind of weird at this transition. So they could either not have this last hit on them, which they probably shouldn't do anyway. More of a smooth transition. That's better like that. They could even play a very soft chord, the chord that comes at the start of the bridge, so they're part of the transition. So that's an E minor. I'm just going to turn this chord into an E minor chord right here. Like this. And I'll do the same here. Make it very, very soft. And hold for a little while. And this one as well, very, very soft. And hold for 1 bar. Now let's hear them by themselves so you can hear it. Do you see they kind of change with the chord into that E minor chord? Make a little transition. Okay, at the end of this section, at the double chorus here at the end, I've got the flute and clarinet playing, and they're a little bit too loud compared to the main lead. Especially the clarinet, so I'm actually going to automate their volume to come down right at that time. So here's the clarinet, and we'll say edit volume automation, and right here we're going to bring it down maybe like, I don't know, 6 dB. And hear that? I'll mute the flute. Do the same with the flute. So the flute, we have edit volume automation, and right here it'll come down maybe 4 dB. I've got that drum fill there, which I could make louder. Which you're way over here. This one. That's pretty good like that. So we've got this fade out going on the outro here, and I'm probably going to try something where I'm just going to go to those arpeggios, put the big reverb, maybe just the hall verb on them, and see what that sounds like. I'm going to edit this automation and fade up the reverb over time until it gets like crazy. Too much though. That's all right. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to listen through it one more time and just see how I feel about all of it. Okay, so I like how it sounds. I may make a few adjustments after I finish the video at some point, I'm not sure. For now, the last thing I'm going to do is do a little trick that happens a lot in the professional world, which is you do automation on the volume of the whole mix. Now, this is an advanced technique, and it shouldn't be used like just willy-nilly. But if it feels right, you can give it a try, and it should be very subtle. So the idea is this. The biggest part of the song can be made bigger by making a volume automation boost right as it comes in. So I'm here right at the beginning of the chorus. And I'm just going to put a couple little markers right there and lift this section like by, yeah, just like with that, maybe 1.5 dB. and hear what that sounds like. And out of verse 2, let's do the same thing. That'll give us a better idea. So copy and place it right here at the start of chorus 2. Oh, that's not chorus 2. Right there. So here's verse 2. And everything feels just a little bit bigger, and that's a nice feeling right there. So I'm going to actually do the same thing for the last chorus as well. And here I'm going to keep that riding out because, you know, it's a double chorus, so it needs to continue on. I'm holding Command to lock the values. You can see it says values locked. That means it can't slide up or down, only left and right, which is exactly what we need it to do in this case. All the way out to here will be fine. Yeah, that feels really good. So here's an example of where that trick worked. That's volume automating the entire mix. It's not always the best idea, but in this case I quite like it. The last thing I'm going to do for now is just put a loop around the loudest section of the song and add my limiter. So I'm going to bounce this song afterwards. If you remember, we need to do that. So to do that, we put the limiter on, and all we're going to do is boost it up until we're getting around -2, -3 on this meter here. That's perfect like that. So that's it for now. That's basically the whole process. I may make some small tweaks, but all I did was the volume balancing, the panning, and then I started adding a bunch of reverbs. I don't have any delays on buses or sends because a lot of times the delay is built into the plugin, the VST, the instrument. So Presence has delay built into it, and MyTie has delay built into it, so I'm just using the delay on there. I didn't need any delay on any audio tracks, so I didn't have to make any sends for that. But I have 5 reverb sends, as you can see, and each one is being used multiple times except for the big verb, which is just for that one drum hit. That's basically it. And so I made some adjustments to the arrangement as we went there, but that's standard practice. That happens all the time. And I'm going to make this session available for you to download and check out underneath this video so you can look at what I did and experiment with it and whatever. So hope you have fun doing yours.